Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle, and today we are going to create a layered starry background. So I've done this background a couple of times with circle stencils. So in photography we call it a bokeh effect, so Bokeh, I think it's how you spell it. And it's kind of that blurry background, especially if you photograph somebody in front of sparkly lights behind them, then you get that little sparkly blurry effect in the background. And that's kind of what I wanted to achieve today, except today I wanted to try doing that technique with a star stencil instead of a circle. I knew I wanted to use this girl, and that was kind of it. Those are the only two ideas that I had. Is I wanted to use this girl, and I wanted to use stars instead. So I'm quickly grabbing my star stencils from Arlene. This is one from a very old release, and then the newer one, which was released this year in 2025, but I can't remember exactly which release it was. Okay, so I'm starting with some mermaid paint in 3 patches, watering down my brush just a little bit just to help that paint spread. I didn't want to water it down too much because I needed that layer of paint at the bottom there to create kind of a seal over the paper. So when I go in with the reductive stenciling, there would be something to protect the paper. And the reductive stenciling would actually work. If you did that just on raw paper, the paint wouldn't lift. Okay, so I went in with Mermaid, Breeze, Heaven, and now Kermit, and just doing 3 spots randomly here and there on my paper, and I'm just trying to cover up that bottom layer again, just to create a separation between the paper and the reductive stenciling that I'm going to do. I'm making sure that I'm drying this layer very well, because obviously if I put my stencil over the top and wipe away the paint and that bottom layer is wet, it's going to wipe that layer away as well, and the effect won't work. So I'm going in over the top with Ballet, and I'm just smushing some paint on with my finger, placing the stencil over the top, and then wiping away the excess paint through that stencil. Now I'm doing the same with Lavender, and you'll see I'm still doing my little groups of 3. I always like to work in groups of 3. It's just it gives the eye kind of a visual triangle to follow. Groups of 3 is really pleasing to the eye. Anything in the kind of design and decor, that kind of world, will always be 3s. Always kind of uneven numbers. The minute you start using even numbers, something looks a little off. So I went in with Lavender, and again also with Peony, and now I'm going in with the neon pink, which is called maybe Funky. I can't remember this paint's name, but it is the neon pink in Marlene's range. And I'm just doing the same thing over and over again, and I'm overlapping the stenciling just slightly. So I did go in with the neon pink over the top of the Ballet and even some of the Lavender, and you'll see now with the punk, I'm going over that lavender as well. And this is going to start creating layers of stencils, or layers of stars. So when you have a close look at the page, you'll see quite a few layers of stars on top of each other. I am making sure I'm drying off in between, because again, if I go over the top with another color, chances are that I'm going to wipe away the bottom layer. So this stage I really started to like this background, and it's really starting to look the way that I wanted it to look. And so now I'm going in with normal stenciling. And first, I wanted to make this layer yellow. So first I went in with a little bit of white paint and then over the top with cheesy. And in fact, I just started mixing the cheesy and the white together, just to give it a little bit more opacity, because the cheesy would be quite translucent over those other bright colors, and then it wouldn't stand up as well. And again, giving it a nice dry. I really, really loved the way that the yellow popped on this page. Now I'm going in with my coloring in pencils, and I'm just going into some of the bottom layered stars, and where that background color shines through, I'm just boosting that color somewhat, just to help pop them out a little bit more. And it's such a, I guess, faffy step, and it might look a little bit unnecessary, but it really does make a difference when those stars start coming up to the top from the bottom. Okay, now I put my girl on, and I did have a moment of hesitation. I wasn't sure if I really should use this girl, but then I decided, no, this was the plan. Let's stick to the plan. She might not look like she belongs right now, but I knew that I would make her look like she belonged eventually. I think what bothered me most was the fact that she had those roses in her dress and the leaves in her hair. But I do make it all blend together in the end. I often say when I use these elements from Arlene, a lot of times creators, we all use the same stuff over here on YouTube, and a lot of times our pages can look quite similar. So I do like to change up my girls and make them look a bit more unique. So definitely you can still see that Marlene did them, but now instead of those roses, I'm adding stars to the dress. So I'm covering up all of those roses, and I'm doing stars and little circles as well, just to also stick to the theme that I've got. So the theme is stars, and I wanted that to be in her dress and her hair as well. And you can already see now it's starting to look a little bit more like she belongs there with the stars. So I'm going in with my paint pen, and I did do 2 layers to make sure that it's nice and opaque, and then later on I will outline those stars as well, just to make them pop out a bit. Oh, not later on, right now. Doing some swirly bits in the circle ones, and then I trace around the stars. Now, I cannot draw a star freehand to save my life. So my stars are very, very wonky, but from afar they do look like stars. So I'm happy enough with that. Her hand that sticks out looks a little bit like she should be holding something. And so I have these leftover stars from another page in that same collage paper book from Arlene, the cut and paste block. And so I quickly cut those stars and the moon out, and I thought that she would be holding on to these stars and moon like a, star fairy or something like that. And I'm gluing those down. And then I decided to extend her hair, because her hair was kind of they just stopped abruptly, and I wasn't loving it. So I decided to extend her hair, and this is where I thought I ruined it. It didn't look right. I was not happy with the shape. I wasn't happy with the fact that the colors weren't blending together. But this is where I just kept telling myself, trust the process, keep going with your layers. And that's exactly what I did. And eventually the hair did come together. So I used the brown paint pen on both the light and the dark side. And then I used some mud paint, which is like a dark brown from Arlene. And I also used wine, which is a a wine color. And just lots and lots of lines, scribbly lines in that hair. And eventually it did come together, which was luck, I guess. So her hair also had those leaves in, and although I've covered up a lot of it, you could still see it popping through the strands of her hair. So I've got my little paper punched stars there. I've got a little container of stars that I've punched out with my paper punch, and I'm just going to put those stars in. And then eventually I thought, okay, no, that's too many stars. You'll see I'll start moving some of the stars from where I glued them down to different positions, and I'm going to vary stars and little circles as well. And I'm so glad that I did that, because the stars were just a little bit too much. So it's a little bit fiddly, but really well worth the effort. I use my diamond dot art wand, the thing that you normally pick up the diamonds with, to pick up these little punched shapes, and that makes it a heck of a lot easier to manage. And it did take a while, so my glue started drying and I had to add a little bit more glue and just look through my stash. It took some time, but it was fun. I can encourage you, if you have paper punches like this, to grab some glittery cardstock and punch out a whole bunch of them and keep them on the side of your desk. They really do add such a fun little element to your work. Okay, now I'm drawing in the strings that she's holding onto the stars and moon to, and I'm just outlining all of that. And then I'm going to outline her as well. I first tried this fine liner pen, but it just wasn't dark enough for me. So I do switch to my Posca paint pen in the end to just outline everything. I always outline things when I've got them on the page, and you'll see how she's going to start popping out from the background now when I outline it. I also like to go over the black parts of printed elements, because normally when things are printed, it will never print as a true black, and I like to have my blacks quite dark on the page. Adding some white details and highlights and colouring in her cheeks. I know it's very tiny on here, but there are some pinker cheeks now. And now I'm just digging through my stash of Marlene's stamps, because I felt like the background, although I loved it, I thought it was a little bit bare for me. You know how much I love a busy page. So I'm just grabbing a whole bunch of different stars that Marlene has done before in her stamp sets, and I'm just stamping them onto my page with different colored inks. So I had an orange there and the pink, and now I'm going to go in with a navy blue. And before I do the blue, I actually do the first stamp on a piece of paper on the side, and then the secondary and third stamping I'll do on my page, because I thought that first very dark blue was a bit too dark for my page, for the overall look. Once I'm happy with that, so I'm quickly packing all of those away. And then I thought my stars on the dress looked a little bit flat, so I'm just adding a little bit of shading with an orange pencil, and I'm fixing up those highlights that were on there before. So obviously, when I drew over the roses, I covered up a lot of those highlights, and now it's all blended back together again. And now I'm going to go in and do some shading, and I'm sticking to the right and bottom side of my girl and my stars, kind of thinking the light would be coming in from the left top hand corner. And that's how I decide which way my shading will go. So I'm going around it with my Stabilo All pencil, then I'm water activating it, and then I blend it out with my finger a little bit, just so it looks a little bit natural. I don't like to just draw a line and water activate it. I do like to bring those shadows out a little bit more and make it look more natural and less like a harsh line there. Okay, I'm grabbing out Marlene's washi tape. This is the rainbowy one and it's a scallopy one. And I'm just going to add some strips of it around the edges. So it's kind of making a border around my page, kind of framing all of this, because I felt like everything was maybe floating away a bit, floating off the page a bit. And I just wanted to give the illusion that there is a border. So by just adding those few little bits, I felt like it was boxing in my piece a little bit more. I'm glad I did that. I really like the way that turned out. And then I'm going to look for a quote, and I think the quote says, shine your light for all the world to see. But I used the black one. So I used the black one to tie in with all the black outlining that I did. And I am going to chop it in half and make 2 lines, because I thought that one piece was a little bit too blocky. And then right at the end, I will go around all of those scallopy washi tapes that I did. At first, I didn't think that I would, but then eventually I did. But first, I'll do a scribbly outline around my quote, and then I'll do it around all of those scallopy bits as well. And so in my mind, that gives 3 areas of black outlining, scribbly outlining. So it's around the girl, and it's around the quote, and now it's around the border as well. So it just brings everything together. All right, I will leave you with some close-ups. I also put some glitter glue over the top of the stars and moon that she was holding to give them some shimmer. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for liking and commenting. I really do love reading your comments, so please keep them coming. If you have not done so, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and you will be notified every Tuesday and Friday when I upload new content. Okay, and I will chat to you again soon. Okay, bye.